If you're not willing to walk alone, you'll always follow someone else's shadow, and it might be leading you straight off a cliff. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. We are social creatures, yes, but we are also individual souls. And the path to becoming who you could be is not paved by crowds. It is walked in solitude, in discomfort, and in the silence of your own confrontation with chaos. To walk alone is to accept a terrifying but necessary responsibility that you are the author of your life. Not your friends, not your family, not society. You, and that kind of responsibility, that burden, is so heavy that most people would rather blend in than stand tall, but blending in will crush your spirit. Walking alone doesn't mean rejecting others. It means refusing to let them dictate your values. It means standing upright with your shoulders back when everyone else slouches toward nihilism. It means choosing order over indulgence, truth over comfort, meaning over popularity. It means building your character in the dark, where no one applauds and no one cares, except your future self. Most people avoid solitude because in solitude there is nowhere to hide. Your weaknesses will find you. Your potential will haunt you. But that's the point. That's how transformation begins. You face the dragon alone. You don't wait for permission. You become formidable not with the crowd, but despite it. You want a meaningful life. You want strength, courage, clarity. Then be prepared to walk alone. Be prepared to carry your cross up the hill. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize that path you feared most was yours all along. So start walking alone, because freedom, real freedom, begins where the crowd ends. Here are 6 important key points. 1. Individual responsibility is essential. True growth begins when you accept full responsibility for your life. No one else can define your path or make your choices. Only you can. Taking full responsibility for your life is the foundation of personal transformation. When you decide that no one else is to blame for your situation, not your parents, not society, not bad luck, you begin to tap into your own potential. This isn't easy. It's far more comfortable to point fingers, to believe that circumstances define your fate. But that belief keeps you stuck. The moment you realize that you have power over your decisions, your habits, and your mindset, everything changes. You begin to understand that while you can't control everything, you can control your response to anything. That shift in perspective is the beginning of growth. Responsibility means acknowledging your role in every part of your life. It's not about guilt or self-punishment. It's about ownership. It's the courage to say, if something is broken, I will fix it. If something is missing, I will find it. If something is wrong, I will confront it. This mindset doesn't wait for rescue, it becomes the rescuer. And when you adopt it, you stop being a victim of your story and start becoming its author. When you walk alone, responsibility becomes your companion. There's no one to lean on, no one to blame. That's where real strength is built. When you realize that you must carry your burdens, make your choices, and live with the consequences. It's daunting, but it's also liberating. Because once you understand that you are responsible, you are also free. Free to choose discipline over distraction, action over excuses, meaning over pleasure. Responsibility is the path to personal power. It doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. And in the end, that strength is what allows you to walk your own path with purpose, even if you have to walk it alone. 2. Solitude is a crucible for transformation. Walking alone forces you to confront your fears, weaknesses, and potential. This inner confrontation is necessary for real personal development. Solitude is not something to be feared. It is a necessary part of becoming who you truly are. When you are alone, there are no distractions, no noise from others, and no one to tell you what to think or how to live. This silence, while uncomfortable at first, becomes the space where you finally meet yourself. In that quiet, your fears, doubts, and weaknesses rise to the surface. Most people run from that confrontation, distracting themselves with noise, company, or superficial goals. But the ones who choose to stay, who sit in that silence are the ones who begin to change. Solitude strips away the illusions. It shows you the truth of your character. Are you disciplined without someone watching? Are you honest when no one will find out? These questions are answered only when you're alone, and that's what makes solitude powerful. It exposes your inner landscape without filters or applause. You're left face to face with your own potential and your own failures. That's where transformation begins, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Growth doesn't happen when everything is easy and loud. It happens when it's quiet and hard. The greatest thinkers, leaders, and creators have all spent long periods in solitude, not because they were avoiding the world, but because they were preparing to face it stronger. Alone time is not about isolation from life, it's about preparation for it. When you choose solitude willingly, you reclaim your time, your mind, and your direction. You begin to think deeply, act intentionally, and grow consistently. In solitude, you are refined. You come out sharper, clearer, more focused. And when the time comes to step back into the world, you do so not as someone who needs it, but as someone who is ready to lead within it. 3. Avoiding the crowd preserves integrity. Following the crowd often leads to mediocrity or even destruction. Walking alone helps you stay true to your values rather than compromising them for approval. Following the crowd can often feel safe. There's comfort in numbers, in being surrounded by people who think like you, act like you, and validate your choices. But that comfort comes at a cost, the cost of your integrity. When you let others decide what's right or important, you surrender your values in exchange for approval, and slowly, almost without noticing, you begin to betray yourself. Your voice becomes quieter, your instincts get dull, your vision blurs under the weight of consensus. That's how people lose themselves, by trying too hard to fit in. Integrity demands that you stand firm in what you believe, even when it's unpopular, even when you're the only one standing. It requires you to question the group, to think critically, and to say no when everyone else says yes. That's not easy. It can be lonely, but it's necessary if you want to live a life of meaning rather than one of imitation. The crowd will often follow what is easy, what is entertaining, or what is trending, but truth doesn't follow trends. Purpose doesn't follow popularity, and your unique path, your genuine contribution to the world, will never be found by mimicking others. Walking alone forces you to develop your moral compass. It sharpens your sense of right and wrong, not based on social acceptance, but on deep personal conviction. And that's where real integrity is forged, in solitude, in self-reflection, in the decision to be honest when it would be easier to stay silent. When you avoid the crowd and stand by your principles, you might feel alone, but you will be free. Free from needing constant approval, free from compromise, free to be yourself in a world that rewards conformity. And in the end, that freedom is worth far more than fitting in ever was. 4. Meaning comes from personal struggle. Life gains depth and significance when you voluntarily endure hardship and seek purpose, not comfort or popularity. A meaningful life is not something you stumble upon. It's something you build step by step through struggle and effort. Most people chase comfort, assuming that happiness lies in ease, pleasure, or external validation, but those things are fleeting. They don't satisfy the deeper parts of your soul. Meaning comes when you face difficulty willingly, when you carry a burden that matters, and when you choose purpose over convenience. Struggle is not the enemy, it is the path. When you engage with challenges voluntarily, you transform suffering into something redemptive. You stop asking, "How can I avoid pain?" and start asking, "What is worth struggling for?" That shift changes everything. Suddenly, even hardship takes on value. The pain becomes fuel. The discomfort becomes a signal that you're moving in the right direction, that you're growing, evolving, becoming more than you were yesterday. Meaning doesn't arise from what is easy, it comes from what is earned. There is a deep human need to feel useful, to matter, to know that your life contributes to something greater than yourself. That need is not satisfied by short-term pleasure or by doing only what feels good. It is satisfied when you pick up a responsibility, when you say, "This is my burden to bear," and carry it with strength. In doing so, you become someone others can rely on. You become someone you can respect. Choosing meaning over pleasure requires discipline. It means delaying gratification, facing fear, and pushing through resistance. But it also means waking up with direction, facing each day with intention, and going to sleep with peace. In the long run, a life built on purpose outlasts and outweighs a life built on comfort. The struggle may be hard, but it's where your soul finds its strength and your life finds its meaning. 5. Courage is built in isolation. You become strong, disciplined, and resilient by making hard choices when no one is watching. That's how real character is forged. Real courage is not built in front of an audience. It's built in isolation, in the quiet spaces where no one is watching. It's in those moments when you're alone with your doubts, fears, and temptations that your true character is formed. Anyone can appear strong when they're surrounded by support, encouragement, or applause. But when you're on your own, with nothing but your choices staring back at you, that's when you find out who you really are. Walking alone forces you to become your own source of discipline and direction. There is no one to impress, no one to disappoint, and no one to motivate you, only you. This solitude is not just physical, it's psychological. It's the inner confrontation that happens when you look in the mirror and realize you are responsible for whether you rise or fall. In that space, you either step up or you give in. If you step up, you begin to develop an inner strength that no one can take from you. You become reliable not because people expect it, but because you've chosen to be. That choice, made again and again in silence, is what shapes resilience and builds real courage. When you face resistance without support, you learn to trust yourself. You become comfortable with discomfort. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect and start moving forward regardless. That's what separates the mentally strong from the mentally fragile, the willingness to do what's necessary even when it's hard and thankless. Courage doesn't come from cheering crowds or easy victories. It comes from the lonely battles, the private struggles, and the silent victories that no one ever sees. But over time, those quiet moments of strength become the foundation of a life that stands tall, unshaken, disciplined, and deeply rooted in purpose. 6. Walking alone leads to authentic freedom. When you stop relying on external validation and start trusting your own judgment, you discover a deeper, more liberating form of freedom. Freedom is often misunderstood. People think it means doing whatever you want, whenever you want, but that kind of freedom quickly leads to chaos, addiction, and aimlessness. True freedom is something deeper, something earned through discipline, integrity, and solitude. It's the freedom that comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and being able to act on that truth without needing anyone's permission. When you walk alone, you begin to detach from the constant need for validation. You no longer shape your actions to fit into someone else's expectations. Instead, you act from a place of conviction, not compliance. This kind of freedom isn't given, it's claimed. You gain it by breaking free from the influence of the crowd, from the pressure to conform, and from the fear of standing out. When you're no longer afraid to be misunderstood or criticized, you become dangerous in the best possible way. You can speak truthfully, live authentically, and move forward with clarity. It doesn't mean life becomes easy, but it does become yours. Every decision is made with purpose, not pressure. Every step reflects your values, not someone else's demands. Walking alone forces you to rely on your internal compass. You stop outsourcing yourself, worth to likes, approval, or applause, And in doing so, you develop a deeper relationship with yourself, a kind of self-respect that no one can take from you. That's real freedom. It's not about isolation, but about independence of thought and strength of spirit. When you reach this place, you're no longer swayed by trends, noise, or fear. You walk your path, not because it's popular, but because it's right. And in a world full of followers, the one who walks alone with purpose and courage is the one who is truly free. In 2025, transform your life by embracing responsibility, not comfort. Wake up with purpose. Speak the truth even when your voice shakes. Discipline your body and mind daily. Cut what weakens you. Friends, habits, lies. Face chaos head on. Order will follow. Stop waiting for motivation. Act now. Take aim at something meaningful and move toward it relentlessly. Seek strength, not safety. Walk alone if you must, but never betray your values. Build a life so grounded in truth and courage that no storm can shake it. In the struggle for meaning, you'll find the strength to rise and to become who you could be.